To fully understand the bond valuation, we have to do some numerical calculation or study some numerical example to fully understand what's the current yield is and how do you get a yield to maturity for a bond, etc. Okay, let's look at this first example. Suppose you have a bond with a par value of $1,000. It pays a annual coupon of $50 per year, and it has 1 year to maturity. This assumption just makes the calculation very easy. The bond price, current market price for this bond is $990. So the question asks you what is its current yield and what is yield to maturity. Okay, let's look at simple number first. The current yield equals coupon divided by the bond price. That is, in this example, $50 divided by $990. What is that number? Let's take out our calculator. 50 divided by 990. You got 0.05050505. Right? So it's about 5.0505%. And we can round this number up a little bit. So 5.0505% is about 5.051%, since the last digit here is 5, right? So we can round it up a little bit. Okay, now we got to deal with the yield to maturity, which is a little bit difficult than the current yield. Here what I have is basically that we know the bond price equals the present value of all the future cash flow from this bond. For this bond, the future cash flow is the par plus the coupon, right? And then to make it a present value, we need to divide it by a discount factor. Here it is 1 plus the yield to maturity to the power 1. Why is that? Because it is 1 year to mature, right? So anything to the first power is itself, so in the denominator here, we only have 1 plus the yield to the maturity. Now, in this formula, I can hardly see how I can get the yield to the maturity. I have to solve this one equation for this one unknown, the yield to the maturity, right? To do that, I have to kind of move the yield to maturity itself to the left-hand side of the equation. The first thing I do is I divide both sides with the bond price and then times both sides of this equation with 1 plus yield to maturity. If you divide the left-hand side with the bond price, you have 1, right? And then times 1 plus yield to maturity, now you have 1 plus yield to maturity equals what? This thing. Remember, I need to time 1 plus yield to maturity on the right hand side as well, so you have 1 left, right? And then I divide the price, so in the numerator I actually have, in the denominator I actually have the bond price now. Okay, still I have something, not just the yield to maturity alone, right? So what I need to do is to minus 1 on both sides of this equation. So the 1 is gone on the left hand side and then minus 1 on the right hand side as well. Okay, now I have exactly yield to maturity on the left hand side that I can calculate to get the number for the yield to maturity. Now we can put every number into this calculation. The par again is $1,000, then the coupon is simply $50. The bond price $990, right? Then minus 1. And that gives me what? I still need my calculator here. Okay, it is 1050 divided by 990. We got 1.060606. That's not really an interest rate, right? So that's why we need to minus 1 here. So we got 6%, 0.6, and 0.606, right? So this number now looks like an interest rate. So now we know it's 6.0606%. Again, we can round this number up. It is about 6.061%. Okay. Now we have both the current yield 5.051% and the yield to maturity 6.061%, right? The yield to maturity is a little bit higher than the current yield. Why is that? Because when we calculate this yield to maturity, we actually take account the appreciation in the par from this bond price, right? $990 to this $1,000. We actually take this appreciation into account. That's why the yield to maturity is higher than the current yield. In the current yield calculation, we only think about what? The coupon, right? Okay, that's our first example.